The first time they descended onto Earth, they didn't come with blazing cannons or glowing threats. No, they came laughing. The kind of laughter that rolled out of their throats like silver bells dipped in arrogance. To them, Earth was a novelty, a half-finished amusement park on the edge of the galaxy, full of clunky machines that squeaked and smoked and broke down at the most inconvenient times. Their ship, sleek, humming with technology so advanced it practically purred, hovered above a field in northern Europe, and from it stepped 6 women who looked, at first glance, nearly human. The only difference, if you were sharp enough to notice, was the ears, long, elegant, pointed, and moving with the fluidity of cats' tails, twitching at every sound like instruments tuned to frequencies humans couldn't hear. The moment their boots touched soil, one of them bent down, pinched a wildflower between her fingers, and sniffed. She coughed violently. "It smells like wet socks," she declared, her voice cutting the quiet night. The others erupted in laughter, the kind that made the stars feel like they were being mocked too. They spent the next hour walking around like tourists in a parody travel show, ridiculing everything they saw. Cars that rattled and belched fumes were compared to dying dinosaurs with indigestion. Street lamps were sticks with glowing boils. Even the moon, Earth's proud companion, earned a jab. "Look at that pale thing, couldn't even manage some decent color." People watched from a distance, peeking from windows and phone cameras, too stunned to run, too fascinated to hide properly. For once, no army scrambled, no politician screamed for nuclear codes. Everyone simply stared, as though humanity had been collectively slapped across the face with disbelief. The aliens thrived on the attention. One of them strutted onto the roof of a car and declared, "This primitive beast shall be my throne." She sat down, the car's alarm screaming like a furious child. Instead of being frightened, she laughed so hard she rolled off the hood and onto the pavement. Her companions joined her, long ears shaking with mirth. Humanity, to them, was slapstick comedy. It was during this theater of mockery that he appeared. The man, ordinary in the way only Earth can produce, jeans a little too worn, sneakers with a hole at the toe, and a jacket that looked like it had been washed one too many times. He carried a paper bag with groceries, the kind that always threatened to tear open at the worst moment. He stopped, stared at the spectacle of 6 alien women laughing at his planet, and did something no one expected. He smirked. "Glad you're enjoying the place," he said, shifting the bag to his other arm. His voice was casual, laced with a kind of dry humor that didn't tremble in the shadow of their superiority. One of the women turned sharply, ears twitching, eyes narrowing. "You think we're joking for your amusement, human?" He shrugged. "I mean, you're standing on Sheila's car, that's my neighbor S. She's not going to be amused when she finds alien boot prints on the hood." For a second, silence. Then, laughter again, but this time with a strange edge. It wasn't just mockery anymore, it was surprise, maybe even discomfort. Humans were supposed to cower, beg, cry, not casually mention their neighbor's car while balancing a bag of milk and bread. The man walked past them, not rushing, not lingering, just existing, as though 6 interstellar women with long ears weren't dismantling the dignity of his entire species. "Wait," another called out, hopping down from the car. "What is your name, Earth creature?" "Tom," he said. "And before you ask, no, I don't have spare batteries for your spaceship or whatever. You'll have to use a charging cable like the rest of us." Their ears twitched wildly at that, confusion mixing with amusement. One nudged another. Did he just make a joke at us? Tom gave them a grin over his shoulder. "Don't worry, you'll catch up. Earth humor takes a while." Then he disappeared down the street, his grocery bag still intact, leaving them in a bubble of unsettled silence. The arrogance cracked just a little. They didn't admit it, of course. Instead, they doubled down, laughing louder, tossing insults sharper, but the image of the human man lingered like an itch they couldn't scratch. Why hadn't he feared them? Why did his words feel less like submission and more like play? Later that night, aboard their ship, They lounged in velvet-like seats while holograms of Earth played around them. They replayed Tom's lines, mimicking his dry tone, exaggerating his walk until they were doubled over. Yet beneath the laughter an unease stirred. For the first time since they left their homeworld, they wondered if perhaps the joke wasn't as one-sided as they thought. One of them, the one who had called Earth's moon pale and boring, tilted her head and muttered, "You know, I kind of want to see him again." The others laughed, but the sound rang hollow. Something had shifted. Something small, ridiculous, and entirely human. The next day, the alien women returned, not because Earth was suddenly more interesting than the rest of the galaxy, but because of him. Tom, the man with the paper bag and the broken shoes, the one who had somehow slipped through their layers of superiority like a splinter under skin. They would never admit it, of course. Instead, they arrived with the same theatrical arrogance as before, their sleek ship shimmering like a blade in the sky, its descent rattling windows and scaring pigeons into frantic flight. They stepped out, long ears twitching at the breeze, and announced loudly to no one in particular, "We have come back to examine the most curious specimen of all, human mediocrity." Tom was already there, sitting on a park bench with a coffee cup, as if he had known their schedule. He glanced at them, raised the cup, and said, "Morning. You girls here to laugh at my shoes again? Because fair warning, they've got new holes since yesterday." One of them, tall with a voice like smooth glass, crossed her arms. "We are here to conduct important cultural studies. You happen to be in the way." "Sure," Tom said, sipping his coffee. "Cultural studies that involve standing on cars and insulting flowers. Groundbreaking stuff." They bristled, but the twitch of their ears betrayed their amusement. This was not the script they knew. Civilizations usually trembled before them, offered gifts, or at least begged for mercy. Tom gave them sarcasm, and worse, it stuck. To prove their dominance, one of them pulled out a small orb, glowing faintly in her palm. "This is a quantum perception device," she declared. "With it, we can measure the entire intellectual range of a species in moments. We will test you." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Does it also tell you if I'm good at crossword puzzles? Because I nailed the Sunday one last week." They ignored the jab and activated the orb. It projected shimmering streams of data, alien glyphs spinning in the air. The women leaned in, ears twitching with excitement. The orb flickered once, sputtered, then went completely dark. A puff of smoke escaped. Tom leaned over, peering at it. "Looks like when my toaster shorted out. Did you try unplugging it and plugging it back in?" The women burst into laughter despite themselves, one clutching her sides. Another groaned. "How is this possible? It was designed to process the minds of warlords and scholars across the galaxy." Tom shrugged. Maybe it wasn't designed for coffee-powered sarcasm. The orb was dead, their superiority dented. Yet instead of rage, the aliens found themselves circling closer to him, curiosity gnawing at their pride. They began to ask questions, not in the formal, superior tone they used with other species, but in the roundabout, teasing way of people trying not to admit they were interested. "Human Tom," one asked, "why do your people consume liquid beans every morning? Is it ritual sacrifice?" "It's coffee," Tom said. "It keeps us from destroying each other before noon." Another leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "And why do you wear shoes that are damaged? Can you not afford new ones?" "Sure I can," Tom replied. "But then how would I keep you laughing?" The answer caught them off guard. It wasn't defense. It was play. Their laughter returned, softer this time, no longer just mocking but tinted with genuine amusement. Hours passed in a strange dance of questions and banter. Tom explained pizza, taxes, and why people yell at sports matches on television. The aliens explained warp drives, photon cascades, and how their ears allowed them to sense micro-vibrations of sound waves invisible to human ears. Tom cupped his hands around his mouth and belted out the worst singing voice he could muster. Their ears twitched so violently it looked like they were about to take off. "Stop, stop!" One cried, half laughing, half pained. "Your voice is a weapon." "Good to know," Tom said, grinning. "If you ever invade, I'll just start a boy band." By the time the sun began to sink, their arrogance had thinned to something almost fragile. They still made jokes at humanity's expense, still teased Tom mercilessly, but each barb was followed by a laugh that felt less like superiority and more like a shared joke. Something had shifted again, and they felt it. That night back aboard their ship, the alien women replayed their encounter. They teased each other, imitating Tom's dry humor, his careless shrug, the way he seemed utterly unimpressed by technology that could bend space. Yet beneath the mockery was something none of them wanted to name. One finally admitted it aloud. "He is not like the others, he is irritatingly memorable." Another flicked her ear. "Memorable is dangerous." They laughed, but the sound carried tension, like a string pulled too tight. For the first time, they wondered if they were no longer the ones writing the script. And somewhere in the city below, Tom sat at his small kitchen table, sipping another cup of coffee, smiling faintly. He didn't know exactly why they kept coming back, but he had a feeling the joke, whatever it was only just beginning. By the third day, the whole thing had become a running joke. News outlets were buzzing, people gathered in parks with binoculars, and conspiracy theorists shouted themselves hoarse about seduction warfare and intergalactic baby farms. The alien women, naturally, ignored it all. They had more important business, finding Tom again. Not because they admitted to caring, but because our ongoing cultural study requires further sampling. That's what they told their ship's recorder, at least, though the recorder beeped skeptically. They landed this time in the middle of a crowded plaza. Their sleek vessel shimmered above the fountain, sending pigeons scattering like panicked confetti. People screamed, phones flew into the air, and somewhere a street vendor dropped an entire tray of hot dogs. Out stepped the 6 long-eared women, striding with the confidence of queens who had just discovered their kingdom was built out of Legos. And there was Tom again, standing at a pretzel stand, casually sprinkling salt as if alien invasions happened between lunch breaks. He looked up, sighed, and said, "You know, there are easier ways to get my attention. You could just knock on the door." The tallest one smirked. "Doors are for mortals. We arrive in style." "Yeah, well," Tom said, handing the vendor a crumpled bill, "you just scared half the city into needing new underwear. Very stylish." They encircled him with exaggerated ceremony, ears twitching, eyes gleaming with the thrill of a game they didn't quite understand. One held up a crystalline device that projected holographic panels filled with alien symbols. "We challenge you, human, to the trial of minds. It will prove once and for all that your species is laughably primitive." Tom bit into his pretzel. "Does this trial involve math? Because if it does, you already win." Laughter rippled among them, but they activated the device anyway. The air shimmered, and suddenly a puzzle of glowing cubes spun around Tom, shifting and twisting like a living Rubik's Cube on steroids. The plaza gasped. Tom chewed thoughtfully, brushed salt off his fingers, and poked one of the cubes. It spun wildly, rearranging the whole structure. The aliens leaned in. He poked another, muttered, "Looks like Tetris on drugs," and with an accidental sequence of taps, the entire puzzle dissolved into a beam of golden light. The device chimed, trial complete, victory achieved. The alien women froze, the crowd erupted in cheers. Tom shrugged. Lucky guess." "Impossible," one shouted. "That puzzle baffled the scholars of Yaldrith for centuries." Tom took another bite. "Maybe they should have tried eating first. Keeps the brain sharp." The plaza roared with laughter. The aliens twitched their ears, caught between indignation and disbelief. They should have felt humiliated, but instead, the absurdity of it all bubbled up until they were laughing too. One leaned against another, gasping, he solved it by accident. Later, aboard their ship, the arguments began. "It was chance," one insisted. "He is not clever, just absurdly lucky." Another countered, "Luck is a form of power. If he can twist even our devices into surrender, what else could he do?" Their voices rose, bouncing off the sleek metallic walls until one finally snorted. "Admit it, You asterisk like him. Ears twitched, eyes narrowed, denials flew, but none of them could erase the memory of his calm smirk, his pretzel in hand, while their most advanced tech bowed to him. Meanwhile, Tom sat in his apartment, flipping through TV channels. Every station replayed footage of him, outsmarting aliens. Though he knew the truth, dumb luck and pretzel grease. His phone buzzed with texts from strangers offering marriage proposals, conspiracy theories, and one very serious invitation to star in a reality show. Tom turned it off, leaned back, and muttered to himself, "This is getting ridiculous." As if on cue, his window rattled. He looked up. Outside, hovering just close enough to make his curtains sway, was the ship. He rubbed his face, groaned, and muttered, "Great, space girlfriends." The aliens' voices crackled through his toaster, because apparently they had hacked his kitchen appliances this time. "Human Tom," one announced grandly, "you are summoned. Your presence is required aboard our vessel for further experiments." Tom eyed the toaster. "If you burn my bread, I'm suing." The toaster dinged. The toast popped up perfectly golden. A small hologram of a grinning alien woman winked at him from the crust. Tom stared, then laughed. "All right," he said to no one in particular. "Let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes." Tom's first step aboard the ship was cautious. The floor hummed beneath him, vibrating with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. Panels shifted color as he moved, scanning him, welcoming him, or perhaps judging him. It was impossible to tell which. The aliens hovered nearby, their long ears flicking this way and that like antennae catching signals he couldn't even begin to perceive. "Human Tom," the tallest announced, voice smooth and commanding, "welcome to the heart of our civilization." Tom glanced around, nodding. "Lovely place. Nice lighting, very futuristic. Does it come in IK?" The day began like any other, if by any other you meant a human man standing in the command center of a spaceship, while 6 long-eared aliens debated the finer points of quantum genetics over his head. Tom rubbed his eyes, still half asleep, coffee in hand, and muttered, "I swear, one day I'll just oversleep and miss this whole galactic circus." One of the aliens, the tallest and most serious of the group, narrowed her eyes. "Oversleep. On this day, you underestimate the magnitude of what is occurring." "Magnitudes are tricky," Tom said, yawning, "especially before caffeine." The others scowled, but the tension was lighter now, less rigid, more familiar. They had seen the improbable, the impossible, and survived it all. And in some strange, unspoken way, they had begun to enjoy him, not as a subject, not as an anomaly, but as something utterly human in a galaxy that demanded perfection. "Human Tom," the senior alien said, ears twitching with something resembling curiosity rather than command, "the integration we warned of has reached a critical stage. You are necessary for our survival." Tom blinked. "Survival? Wait, am I like a magical key or something? I didn't sign up for that, I just brought pretzels." Another laughed, long and melodic, shaking her ears. "Pretzels have always underestimated their power. Who knew, in combination with your DNA, you would activate dormant reproductive and genetic pathways in our species?" Tom swallowed. "Wait, are you saying I caused this?" "Yes," one admitted, hiding a blush behind a flick of her hand. "You have inadvertently impregnated some of us." Tom coughed, choking on his coffee. "Pregnant me? How is that even biologically possible? I mean, I know humans are weird, but this is next-level weird." They all laughed, nervously, then louder, their arrogance melting into something warmer, more genuine. For once, humor was their shield and their solace. Tom, ever oblivious to the full consequences, shrugged. "Well, I guess I should have worn better shoes." The next hours were a whirlwind of testing, laughter, and discussions on how to handle the unprecedented. They analyzed the biology, ran simulations, and still, the outcome was always the same. Humans, Tom in particular, were unlike anything the aliens had prepared for. He was unpredictable, resilient, and somehow disarmingly charming in his casual incompetence. "You know," Tom said, examining a holographic star map. "If any of this goes sideways, we could end up with half the galaxy thinking humans are some kind of cosmic superweapon. Just a heads up." One alien tilted her head. "Perhaps that is the point. Perhaps your species' charm, its ability to endure, to laugh, to disrupt, is a kind of power we did not comprehend." "Endure, laugh, disrupt, got it," Tom said, scribbling mockingly on a floating tablet. "Step 1, endure alien pregnancy crises. Step 2, laugh a lot. Step 3, disrupt galaxy-scale plans. Sounds manageable." Weeks passed aboard the ship. Bonds formed, jokes multiplied, and the once proud aliens discovered humility was not weakness. It was the strength to adapt, to laugh, and to accept help, even from a human. Tom's presence reshaped their society in ways they had never imagined. Shared meals, spontaneous laughter, and the gradual dismantling of their rigid hierarchies. When the first signs of life began to manifest, the ship's chambers filled with nervous excitement. The aliens hovered, ears quivering, faces radiant with awe. Tom, of course, remained casual, fiddling with a coffee maker he had somehow convinced them to install. "So, these little guys are our kids?" "Yes," one said, tears in her eyes, though with their species the tears looked more like glittering filaments of light. "You have created a bridge between worlds, between pride and humility, between laughter and understanding." Tom leaned back, arms crossed, and smirked. "Well, I always wanted to make a difference. Didn't think it'd be